Looking at the market, seeing the industrial index on the week shedding 3.3%. Talk us through some of the major stocks that led to the fall.
Yeah, sure. In the week, we saw a bit of profit taking in the very names that had been the forerunners for the increase in the index. And these are Delta, which came off 8.6% to close at 85 cents today. Econet shed off 2.2% after releasing results yesterday. And Insco also came off 5.2% to 76 cents. These three counters constitute about 48% of the industrial index. So I think the Delta and Insco story, they are pretty much profit-taking stories after hitting all-time highs in the prior week. The dip in Econet, however, is attributable both to profit-taking as well as lukewarm results that were released yesterday.
But when you look at the resource index gaining a 4.2% in this week's trading session, we had Rio Zim up 5.8%. Were there any major news out of this company?
Not necessarily. I think the Rio story there is just investors positioning themselves for long-term upside upliftment. Otherwise, there's been no new news coming through or no change in fundamentals. So Bindura and Rio would have pretty much accounted for the gain in the resource index, and these two counters account for 52% of the resources index.
We also had Econet out with half-year results. We saw broadband subscribers growing by 75.3%. What did you make of those numbers, and what did the market overall think of those numbers?
Okay, I think what we've seen in Econet is that the earnings growth seems to be tapering off. A key statistic, the average revenue per user came off 17% in the period from about $10.70 last year to $8.90 this year because of the dilutive effect of lower subscribers and also new services on the network that are yet to reach their full potential. So while you would have noticed that subscriber numbers grew by just over 20%, revenue would have slowed down and grown about 16.7%. Now EBITDA is around about 16%, and attributed profit is just 5% up. So you've got pretty much a flattish earnings per share figure from the prior year to this year. I think the most disappointing story with Econet would have been that investors were expecting a dividend, which did not come through this time around.
Well, Itai, talk us through what your expectations are for the coming week. We saw the industrial index down this week, but the mining index up in this week's trading session. Is that the kind of trend we can expect in next week's trading session?
I think in the coming week it's possible that we could see a bit of profit-taking persist because, quite honestly, the market has gone up in successive weeks and we had touched all-time highs in the names like Insco and Delta, for instance. But however, we are expecting Delta to release its interims in the first week of November. So obviously, investor expectations are quite bullish there. But what we've seen in this market is once the market starts sliding, it could give a bit of downward momentum. So our expectations are that the next week may actually see a downward revision in the indices both ways.